You know, the comment I see most on the channel is that new car prices are out of control. And for the most part, I agree with you completely. Except for today, because I have found a new car deal that costs less per month than your cell phone, that costs less per month than these 3 drinks I just bought at Starbucks. Let's go talk about it. So how is it possible to obtain a new car for less than the price of this Starbucks order per month? Not per day, not per hour, but per month. Now, this is a lease deal I saw advertised online through a local dealership, and it seems too good to be true. I'm just gonna say that outright. So I called up the dealer and they said, no, this is real. And I said, is this like one car you have on the lot that's unobtainable? And they said, no, we've sold hundreds of them at this deal, or I should say at least hundreds of them at this deal. So we're gonna take a ride over there, talk to some sales folks and see exactly what's going on, because I'm still, I'm really skeptical. All right, folks, so we're down here at Tynan's Nissan in Aurora, Colorado, and what we're looking at here is an advertised $19 a month leaf. Is this real? Is there a catch? What's going on?
Less than my cell phone bill. It's the truth, that's what it is. It's because we're in Colorado, we get to stack a bunch of rebates and incentives and the state tax credit all together, and it's a normal lease. You get taxes and fees like every other lease, but the payment is $19 a month. Because we're in the great state of Colorado, where we are fortunate enough to have a very large Colorado state-funded tax credit on electric vehicles. And what's great is we can apply that to a 24-month term, which happens to line up perfectly with what corporate Nissan or NMAC, Nissan's bank, is incentivizing for the Leaf. So kind of picture this, Tommy, all the stars are aligning in this way, and it may not make sense, but I'll show you. I'll put it down in some writing so I can show you what it looks like.
So the sticker on the Leaf S is like 30.
Right.
Thereabouts. Is the number
Correct.
You'll see, $30,000.
It's about $30,000.
Yeah.
MSRP.
So how the heck can you get a $30,000 car for $19 a month?
Let's start with this. Let's say the price of this car is $30,000. Let's say that's the MSRP, right? That's this vehicle. That's how much it costs from the manufacturer. In a lease, each month, typically the manufacturer will send over these ratios for what they lease for, and they change depending on the miles and the term, meaning the length of that lease. Let's just, again, for example's sake here, let's just say that was drawn right here, where this part of the car is, let's say, 70% of this MSRP, and this is 30%. So what that means is that it's residualized during the lease term, in this case, 24 months.
Okay.
So you're only paying 30% of the $30,000 of this car during that term. In fact, you don't even pay tax on this part. This is called the residual, and this is what you can buy the car for at the end of the lease. But this is where it gets cool, because you're like, okay, great, awesome, this is just leasing. But this is where we get to apply discounts and rebates. And in the great state of Colorado, we have $8,100. And if you remember, we get to apply that directly to the 24-month term. So all of these rebates and discounts, everything gets affected here. So these are rebates from the state of Colorado. These are rebates from NMAC, which is Nissan's bank, as an incentive to help lease these. All of them combined together brings you down to $19 a month. Right?
How much money down? Is it like a $3,000, $4,000 down? What do you pay down?
Not at all, not at all. So it can be a little confusing, but to make it very simple, it's zero down.
Okay.
And then separate from that, there are taxes and fees, right? You got to pay tax. There's upfront tax, there's monthly tax, and it's based on your address where you'll register the vehicle. Okay. So you have to register in the state of Colorado. So if you live in Colorado, file income tax, great news, you're eligible. There's no income qualifications like there is with the federal tax credit. You just got to get approved credit and you get to start that, which is fantastic.
So let's talk about some of the fees. So there's like a $690 something acquisition fee.
You got it. So $695 acquisition fee, that starts the lease. We have a $699 dealer fee.
Okay.
First payments due at signing, as with all leases, that's how it starts.
Okay.
And then based on the tax, on the rebates, we'll just do simple math. It's about $2,000 if you live in this area at 8% sales tax.
Okay.
And that's just, again, taxes and fees. And that will give you that $19 a month payment.
Whoa, okay, so we got a lot of numbers buzzing around, but let's break it down and talk about what this car would actually cost you. So we got the acquisition fee and the dealer fee. Those are both around $700. So both of those combined is just under $1,400. Then you have to pay taxes, and depending on your area, it's going to change a little bit here in Colorado, but where Tynan's at in Aurora is about 8%, so that's going to be another $600 or so on top of that. So we're sitting at just over $2,000 or thereabouts, plus the $19 first month's payment. And if you factor in the following 23 payments of $19, all in all, this lease about $2,500, $2,600, of course, depending on the county you're registering the vehicle here in Colorado. And that's for a 2-year lease, 10,000 miles a year. So you can drive this car 20,000 miles over the course of 2 years. It's got a full manufacturer warranty. It's a brand new car for right around $2,500. So it's about, if you're in this area with taxes, about $2,000 if you want it up front, then $19 per month. Or can you spread that out over the term period?
You can, absolutely. And you can just roll that into the lease, which is what I typically do with leases. So I will get down in the finance department and I'll just do that first month payment and I'll roll all those taxes and fees into it. And if you divide that number, 2,000, over the term of the 24-month lease, it's roughly, with some fees in there, it's about $100 a month.
Okay.
Again, we're talking about less than, do the math, less than $120 a month, and you're getting a car.
Right.
That's taxes, that's fees, that's everything, all built into it.
So this applies to the Leaf S, so that's the entry-level Leaf. Have you guys done a bunch of cars in this program?
Oh man, we've done so many, and we've been third in the entire country for Aria sales, which is the new flagship electric car. So we sold a ton of those, and then when our allocation window opened up, we ordered 110 of these.
Okay.
Which is a lot.
That's a lot of Leafs. Yeah.
Over the past 2 months, we've sold pretty much 100 of them.
Let's see what you get for that $19 a month. Well, what you get is the base model Leaf known as the Leaf S. And the quickest way to tell the S apart from the other trims is going to be the wheels. So a black steel wheel with a silver mounted hubcap. Now we're rolling on a set of Bridgestone Ecopia tires. This is a pretty low rolling resistance tire. Now the Leaf has been out for several years in this trim, and sure, it's not the most attractive car on the planet, but it still holds up well, especially for less than the price of like a couple Starbucks runs. Now to charge up the Leaf, you push a button here on the key, pop the charging port, and there you find your J1772 port, as well as your CHAdeMO. So this car doesn't run the CCS architecture. It's still running CHAdeMO. That is one of the big downsides of the Nissan Leaf, along with charging speeds. I mean, you're really not gonna charge quicker than 50 kilowatts. This is primarily an around town car, and especially when you learn the range. So the upper end Leafs will go well over 200 miles. This car is rated at 149. So it's not a long distance cruiser. There's no way around it. But think about your average commute. Are you realistically driving more than 100 miles a day? And do you have a place to charge at home? If you answered no to the first question and yes to the second, this is a hell of a lot of car for $19 a month. That's wild. And look, if you lived in an apartment, you don't have access to everyday charging, you can't plug in at night, this doesn't make a lot of sense. But if you do, even if you have like a standard level 1 home socket, if you're driving 10, 20, 30 miles a day, you're gonna be able to keep this car charged up without even installing a level 2 socket. All right, stepping inside the Leaf S. Now to start the car, put on the brake. It does have push button start, and that's going to bring the car into life. So a couple of things worth noting in here. The $19 a month Leaf has cruise control, and Andre's Colorado doesn't. Sorry, Andre. Now on this base end spec, it's not going to be adaptive cruise control. It's just going to be standard, normal cruise control. But really, who cares? It's probably fine, especially because of the range of this car. You're not going to be taking a lot of super long trips. Apart from that, the tech in here is really pretty good. We do have this large screen with XM radio, Bluetooth audio, USB connectivity, AM, FM. It's got, your phone calls you can take through there, and Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. I don't think we have navigation, but that is not a problem because no one uses navigation anymore. Most folks usually just hook up to their phone. Below that, we're going to find single zone automatic climate control. So you can adjust your climate. It does have AC, of course. Got to clarify at this price point. Push for auto. That's going to turn it on. And then your fan control. You've got a couple buttons here. And then you can turn your heat on and off like that. Below that, USB-C and USB-A ports. Little 12 volt socket there. And then over here, we're going to find a couple of other interesting features. So we have an eco mode there. It's going to slow down throttle response and help increase the range. And then e-pedal is going to be your one pedal driving system. Kind of a funky shifter in this vehicle. pull back for drive, push forward for reverse, push the button for park. And then look at this, we even have steering wheel controls. So we've got volume up and down, track selection, little screen here, which actually looks pretty good. So we have an analog speedometer, but we do have a digital cluster here, which shows us some charge times. So that's our peak AC charging rate of 6.6 kilowatts. We have a battery temperature. Another downside with the Leaf is air-cooled batteries, which historically has not been awesome for longevity. Who cares? At $19 a month, this thing could last 2 years and then take a dump. It's not gonna matter because this is not your car to keep long term. So back seats is actually surprisingly comfortable. Headroom is okay at 6 feet tall. I have just enough. This is my driving position, decent legroom. And then back here we have 2 USB-A ports and a couple of cup holders. It does seat 5, this car as well, so it is a proper 5-seater, although middle passenger is gonna be a little squished. Popping open the trunk of the Nissan Leaf, surprisingly huge and surprisingly functional. Seats do fold down, 60-40 split. And in here, you are gonna find the included charger. Crazy to think that the $19 a month Leaf has the included charger, but a brand new Tesla does not. How the heck does that work? So you still have like 6 or 7 left.
Correct.
As of the recording of this video.
That's right, that's right.
But I want to clarify, like, this is not something that you see online and there's only one car it applies to. Like,
no,
you've moved a lot of units.
Yeah. You get to come in and we got a few color choices left. You pick your color and boom, $19 a month.
So what if your budget was like a little bigger?
Sure.
I mean, do you have like the upper end Leafs?
We do.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So right now in the lineup for Nissan, and there's 2 different trim levels for the Leaf. So this happens to qualify for more because of that MSRP threshold for the Leaf S, which is, this one's about 30,000.
Yeah.
If you go up to the SV Plus, you get a little bit bigger battery, 50% larger, but it does exceed that threshold. So instead of 8,100 state tax credit, it's 5,600. But Nissan is still incentivizing them. They're also extremely a great value.
So do you remember what the monthly payment is on like the higher end trims?
It changes all the time.
Okay.
In fact, it was so good. It was probably about $30 a month more than what this is. We're talking about like $50 a month. Again, assuming those taxes and fees were paid upfront.
Yeah.
Right.
What's the mileage limit on these Leafs?
It's a standard lease at 10,000 miles a year.
Okay.
And we can customize it. We can add more.
Cool.
And then each time we add more miles, it's just written in those ratios at just a little bit of a bump this way, meaning you're paying slightly more over the course of that lease.
Interesting.
Or you can just sign up at 10,000 and purchase miles as you go.
Okay.
So it's very flexible.
Now, one other aspect which I want to talk about is insurance costs. So I went ahead and called up my insurance agent to find out what it would cost to put this car on my policy because it seemed so attractive. I was genuinely curious. And I ran it up against a couple of other cars. So a little background, I've been driving for 11 years. I've had no claims on my insurance and no tickets. So I'm a pretty clean record, and I currently pay about $120 a month for my 2006 Land Rover, so that's going to be our baseline. Now I asked my insurance agent what it would cost to insure a Nissan Ariya Engage all-wheel drive. That was going to be about $189 a month. A Tesla Model 3 is going to be over $200 a month. A Kia EV6 about $180 a month with the wind trim and all-wheel drive, and this Nissan Leaf S model came in at $158 a month. So the insurance cost is far more than the lease payment cost. Even if you have the lease with all of the fees bundled in per month, you're typically going to be paying more for insurance than the actual car payment, at least on my insurance. One final thing I want to clarify, this is not sponsored in any way by Tyna's Nissan. They are not paying me $1. I'm getting no kickbacks. I don't care if you lease that Leaf or not. It doesn't affect my life in any way. I just thought it was a really interesting story and one that I wanted to get out there to explain why this car was so gosh darn affordable. And I think the only catch is you kind of have to live in Colorado.
You do. You have to live in Colorado. That's right. That's right. I mean, these basically have no interest in them. Whereas normal leases, i.e. gas cars, they follow the trends in the economy. So if interest rates are high, as they are right now, and at least you still have that rent charge built into it.
Sure.
But Nissan is basically, it's like buying down an interest rate, if you're familiar with that.
Gotcha.
That's what's happening behind the scenes.
Like with this deal, it wouldn't make sense to buy the car out after the lease term.
I wouldn't do it. Okay. No, not at all. Because one of those incentives you talked about is moving this. So here's the thing, if you move that residual ratio left or right, and your whole goal is to own the car at the end of the day, it doesn't matter where you draw the line. You're either paying more now during the lease and less later, or vice versa. But if you're just going to use the lease and then turn it in at the end, then you're really just focusing right here on what it is. And in this case, to buy one of these out, it's about $21,000 for the buyout. And that doesn't really make sense considering the MSRP is 30.
Right.
And with a couple grand down, 19 a month for 2 years, you just want to hope that the same deal's around next 2 years.
Right.
And you would lease a new one.
Gotcha.
That's the idea.
Well, Samir, thank you so
Absolutely.
much for
Thank
explaining
you.
this. And if folks,
pleasure.
If folks want to learn more about this,
Sure.
where can they go? Where can they check
Absolutely. Yeah, they can go to our website, tynensnissan.aurora.com, and check us out. We're on Havana Street, Aurora, Colorado.
So now that we know how this deal works, let's talk about how it makes sense. How is a dealer making money? Well, they are making their money off of that initial dealer fee. It's not a lot of money, and they flat out told me, they're like, no one is getting rich off of this deal, but it is enough for them to offer the car at that price, which is really interesting. Is the car worth $19 a month? There's no doubt that the Leaf S, it's not a great car. No one's claiming it's the best EV on the market. It's one of the shortest range EVs on the market, rated at 150 miles. It doesn't have thermally cooled batteries, so longevity long term is a little bit questionable, but for the price that they're asking for this vehicle, it almost doesn't matter. It's a brand new car with a full manufacturer warranty. The crux is it only really works here in Colorado because of our crazy EV incentives, which is fine for them. You know, they've sold many, many, many units. And clearly Nissan has a lot of incentives on the Leaf to get them moved out. The car's been old enough that I would venture it's probably been paid for from a Nissan standpoint. They're just printing money with them when they sell them. It's not a huge battery. It's not a lot of crazy expensive tech in that vehicle. And the result of that is that as a consumer, you can get a heck of a deal, right? And yes, Tynens Nissan is, at least as far as I can find, the cheapest lease rate in the state, maybe even nationally, but other dealers are also offering really affordable leases on Leafs. Like Boulder Nissan for 4th of July has a deal, $17 down, $76 a month, the $17.76 thing. And certain dealers are going to have different dealer fees, so that's definitely where you're going to want to look into the deal. Are the dealer fees crazy? Are they going to make the car not worth the price? But if you just needed a cheap car to run around it, if you wanted a cheap first car, just a couple years, 10,000 miles a year, I mean, for the price point, I think that the base Leaf S makes a lot of sense. Folks, let me know what you think in the comment section below. A big thank you to Cole behind the camera, and we'll see you in the next video.